Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the December 6th meeting of the Joliet City Council. Mayor Bob Odekirk presiding. Deacon Carl Hubner from Holy Family Catholic Church at 600 North Brook Forest Avenue in Shorewood will lead us in the invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going to start with a reading from the Old Testament, reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Come, let us climb the Lord's mountain, the house of the God of Jacob, that he may instruct us in his ways, and we may walk in his paths. And let us pray. We pray for the leaders around the world. May they strive for peace. We pray for leaders of our country, that they work for justice for all. We pray for our men and women in our military, police officers, firefighters, doctors, nurses, all those who protect us. Lord, we ask you to protect them. We pray for this city council. May their decisions be fair and just for all. And bless the citizens of our city, and we all live in peace and harmony, not just in this time of Christmas season, but throughout the year. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's like old school. Yeah. I don't care. No one does it anymore.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Father. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Merry Christmas.
Roll call, Mayor Odekirk,
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin. Here. Councilman Guerrero.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is a presentation on ThriveWorks. It's an update by Fire Chief Jeff Carey.
Thanks. Chief, I know I invite you to come forward and present to the council some outstanding news about this program I want to share with the city council and the people of Joliet.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight I'd like to give you guys a quick presentation on our community risk reduction program and specifically the mental health program. But before I start, I'd like to just recognize the people who worked on it with me to get the program going. Our EMS Battalion Chief, Aaron Kozlowski, our peer support and mental health coordinator, John Lukancic, and Sister Mary Francis from the Upper Room Crisis Line.
All very good people. All very good people.
They've put in countless hours, hundreds of hours of volunteer work to get this program going over the last year, so none of it would be possible without them. The Joliet Fire Department, we started a community risk reduction program in 2020, and it was aimed at identifying risk in the community. And what that is a process to identify risk and then use your resources to go after those risks. We analyzed over 44,000 calls over the past couple of years, and the number one call that stood out to us was that of mental health issues. Mental health issues occur in all neighborhoods in Joliet, affect all races, ages, and socioeconomic classes. There's not one side of town or one neighborhood that has any more mental health issues than the other when we looked at our community risk assessment. So the Joliet Fire Department, we developed the community mental health program to address the mental health risk in Joliet. The program is a comprehensive and sustainable program, provides access to timely crisis care and to long-term intervention. In most cases, the mental health program allows residents to see a crisis interventionist within minutes, and that would be the Joliet Fire Department, who's trained now in crisis first aid, and to get into long-term definitive mental health care within 24 hours. In the first, let me go to the next slide. In the first 90 days of the program, the fire department paramedics performed crisis first aid on over 190 patients. Almost 120 residents enrolled in ThriveWorks in long-term weekly therapy in the first 90 days. In our program, residents can see the same therapist as often as needed. 11 of these residents had no insurance and have previous no access to mental health care. The same is said for we have over 35 children in the program who before this program, because on Medicaid and their age, were not able to find mental health care. A couple of weeks ago, we received a call from a social worker for a child who was under the age of 5. And under the age of 5, it's very difficult to get mental health care. The foster parents didn't know what to do anymore, and they were at risk of giving the kid back to the state because nobody would help this child. We called ThriveWorks. ThriveWorks was able to bring a specialist in from the northern suburbs who commutes weekly to Joliet to see this child. It's given this child a chance to succeed, and we talked to these parents. To say that they're grateful for the City of Joliet's program would be an understatement. And this is just one of the many parent phone calls that we get from these kids who, because of the City of Joliet's program, now have access to something that they never had in the past. According to the CDC, the schools face an unprecedented challenge during the pandemic and cannot address the complex challenges of mental health alone. Helping provide schools with supportive environments, whether in person or virtually, is critical to the children's well-being. The City of Joliet's mental health program is now available in all schools in Joliet, including Joliet Junior College and the University of St. Francis. Joliet Township High School and Lateways Hospice also developed their own fund, so they're able to get the kids who are non-Joliet residents and at hospice, they're non-Joliet clients, into mental health care. We could all imagine at hospice, that's probably a pretty big deal with what they deal with. In Joliet Township High School, Brett Markin there has done a fantastic job. Their counselors in the schools are directly referring people out to ThriveWorks, and they're actually allowing them to see their mental health clinician through telehealth in the office of the counselors. As word about the city's program has spread, we continue to receive calls from help from other cities, schools, and private businesses that have heard about the program. We have received calls as far away to the east as from Virginia and as far west as Colorado. Next week, we've been asked to present our program at the Will County Fire Chiefs meeting. The Will County Fire Chiefs are interested in trying to get this program to go countywide. The Silver Cross Hospital Emergency Medical Service approached us about teaching crisis first aid for paramedics in their paramedic class. And we accomplished that for the first time this fall. It's going to be an ongoing part of the paramedic program from now on. The City of Rockford has adopted our exact program. They are coming here this Friday to go through the initial training for mental health crisis first aid for first responders. And 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Green Bay, Wisconsin, which kind of shocked me. I don't know, I'm not sure how they heard about the program, but after they discovered our program, they are interested in mocking the same program in Green Bay. Green Bay and Rockford and most of these places we talk to, they all have mobile crisis teams, but they all lack the one thing that we have, the access to definitive mental health care. Without that access to mental health care, these mobile crisis teams, while they may lessen transports to the emergency room, they're still seeing the same patients over and over again because the patient's never treating the underlying cause. And that is the one thing that we have, the game-changing thing is getting them to definitive care to treat the root cause of the problem within that 24 to 48 hours. Crisis First Aid for Paramedics was developed to the City of Joliet at no cost as a collaborative effort with Sister Mary Frances from the Upper Room Crisis Line, the Aspire Center for Positive Change, the Joliet Fire Department Peer Support Group, and the Joliet Fire Department. It was developed and revised over 1 year and implemented this spring to over 200 firefighters in Joliet. They were trained in the basics of crisis field intervention by using possessed knowledge and experience that they already have, along with new communication techniques. While some entities already provide mobile crisis teams, they may differ from what the Joliet Fire Department crisis response in several ways. First, crisis intervention availability is an issue. With mobile crisis teams in Will County, they are present at this time, but they do not yet operate 24/7. The Joliet Fire Department offers crisis intervention 24/7, 365 days a year. Second, mobile teams respond to mental health issues, not traumatic stress issues, events, or responder mental health issues. While statistically 20% of Joliet residents suffer from some type of mental illness, hundreds more experience traumatic stress events throughout the year, like serious car accidents or loss of a loved one. Using crisis first aid for paramedics, we work to preventively reach out to those people experiencing traumatic stress issues to get ahead of the problem. We do a basic crisis intervention with them, provide them resources so they don't get to the level where they need clinical care. These people that suffer traumatic stress, we follow up with them in 2 to 3 days after the event to make sure that their needs are being met and that they got the care they needed. Another difference in our program is the medical aspect of the program. Most mobile crisis teams do not offer medical assessments. They only receive crisis assessments. Research has shown that those with serious medical issues often co-occur with physical issues. Sometimes mental health problems and physical problems may mimic one another. Most mobile crisis teams do not medically evaluate the people they respond to, and this may delay important medical care. Responder mental health has also become a big issue. Crisis first aid for paramedic allows our firefighters to both self-evaluate and monitor their peers for mental health issues and act long before issues develop. In the 2 years prior to training our fire department crisis first aid, our peer support group had dozens of calls a year from our active firefighters for seeking support. In the 6 months since we trained our fire department crisis first aid, we've had 0 calls from our firefighters for support. This demonstrates how providing resource and education to our members has helped our active firefighters become more resilient. As the program continues to grow, we have implemented an outreach program through our Community Risk Reduction Division to reach our most vulnerable residents. The outreach program has been working with individuals who call 911 sometimes over 100 times a year. By getting to the root of the problem and the outreach, we have drastically reduced the number of times these residents called. The overall goal of these programs was to ensure families and individuals are safe, healthy, and have the opportunity to thrive. Because of your support, our program is not only helping the residents of Joliet, but it's also helping citizens throughout the entire country. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Real quick, and just to break it down, as a former first responder, and obviously you know this, Officer Clement knows it, Councilman Clement, you get a 911 call, someone's having a mental health issue, whatever they're doing, they're in the street or whatever. Police or firefighters, there's not a whole lot we could do. Ultimately, if the person's not committing a crime, maybe fire would come and transport them to the hospital. If you could explain the process, what was happened prior to the implementation, how that changed now, I think it might help some people understand.
Yeah, before our only option was basically to transport people to the emergency room, and what we would see is, we would see them, basically we had no treatment for them, get in the ambulance, go to the hospital, and then we'd see them again next week, and we'd see them again next week, and see them again, because they were never getting the treatment they needed. Even at the hospitals, they don't offer that long-term definitive care. So by training our members in crisis first aid, it teaches them communications to calm the patient, earn that rapport, do basic crisis intervention. While we're not psychologists or anything, it's just a technique to calm them down so they'll listen to what we have to say. Then we provide them with the resources available. We also provide crisis lines and other options for them. We have a whole resource guide that maybe they need food or maybe they need something else. So we're looking to get to the underlying cause of their problem. But the most important aspect of it is something we never had before, is being able to get them into that long-term care. So in the first 2 months, we were only getting about 1 person a day. In the last month, we've gone up to 2. So it's starting to really take off as the months go on. But that was the game changer, and that's what these other towns that called us that operate mobile crisis teams, they were, even though they had mobile crisis going out, they weren't getting them into that long-term care. So they were just seeing the same problem that we were seeing over and over. So this is aimed at going to the real cause of the problem, and then they don't have to ever call us again.
Thank you. And also then, of course, the long-term care, no cost to the patient with the money that's been put towards this by the city. Whether someone has insurance or not, they're not going to be denied the long-term care. Many of these people don't have insurance.
Yeah, 11 of those had no insurance at all. Those 35 kids were all under 17 and on Medicaid, and nobody would take them on Medicaid. Well, the county eventually will, but it was, a month out to 2 months out sometimes. And going to some of these other places that they could get in for free, they don't see the same therapist over and over. So you don't earn that rapport. You don't really ever build anything, and a lot of them just don't follow through. With ours, some of the ones we see, some of them are going twice a week. They're following up, going every single week. So it's getting them, they're building rapport with their therapist and getting that treatment that they need.
It's a great program. Great job to you and your team. Thank you for coming forward tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you.
Next is the approval of the agenda. The city did receive a request to table Council Memo 582-22, which is a public hearing for a resolution approving the First Amendment to the annexation agreement for 620 Sandal Place and 800 Richard Street. The request would be tabled to the January 17th council meeting. So is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with the following change? Table Council Memo 582-22 to the January 17th council meeting.
I'll move.
Motion seconded to approve. Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin. Councilwoman Gavin,
Once I got to unmute myself, excuse me, but
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon. Motion carried, and Council Memo 582-22 was tabled to the January 17th council meeting. Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on an agenda item? You can speak, I believe you signed up to speak during the public hearing, and that was tabled to the January 17th council meeting. So anyone that was present that was going to be speaking in the public hearing for Council Memo 582-22, the public hearing was tabled to January 17th.
So could I still speak or is that?
You can speak under citizens to be heard on agenda items, yes.
I drove some distance for that item that was just tabled, so I represent several parcels in the affected area at 326, 328 West Joliet Court. We wish no ill will to the rock quarry. We wish them success in their business. So please don't take this as hostility or animosity. But the quarry, the properties near the quarry are concerned about vibration damages to our buildings and especially to our water wells. We don't have city water in that area. I contacted Will County Well and Pump and asked them their opinion how wells could be affected by blasting. And there is the distinct possibility that the vibrations could cause several problems. The wells to fill with shifting debris and rock, dirt, as well as causing them to collapse, and they would then need to be re-drilled. There's also concern of how deep they're going to go, and should that lower the water table in the area, then our wells would go dry and we would need to drill wells. I know at a previous community meeting this was brought up, and the reply from the representatives of the quarry was, we don't expect that to happen. That answer doesn't address the issue, and it doesn't make the property owners feel safe or good about this. So unless there's a guarantee by the quarry owners and operators to cover any damages in this regard, then I'm opposed to allowing blasting. And should this council allow this to go forward without legal guarantee that the quarry owners and operators would cover the cost of damages, then this council would be subjecting these properties to lower home values and perhaps even get condemned due to not having water. Again, no animosity toward the quarry, but homeowners and property owners, we live there. We operate there. That's our homes, that's our neighborhood. And so we have to do what we need to do. And, should the blasting bring about those damages, then we would have no choice to pursue legal remedy from the quarry and or the city for allowing this to happen and not protecting the residents. Don't mean that as a threat. I'm a nice guy. I really am. But this is serious stuff. And if it's just approved and gone through, it's not going to be good. So the last well dug in that area was over $30,000. I know because I was part of paying for it. So again, no ill will to the rock quarry, but we do hope that you take these concerns under serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to council committee reports.
Krista, excuse me, Mayor. That's been put on the agenda for January, is that correct?
January 17th.
January 17th.
Mhm.
And so, how will these folks know to get the word out to the people that live there in case they don't come back
So the
and
public
talk?
hearing will need to be re-advertised since it wasn't opened this
Okay.
evening, so they will re-advertise the public hearing, and then it'll be placed on the January 17th.
Okay, thank you, just so it gets out there properly.
So Public Service Committee report is next.
Okay. Caught me off guard. I'm usually the last one to go. But I'm the only one. Public Service met yesterday here at City Hall, here in the council chambers at 4:30 in the afternoon. On the committee in attendance was Councilman Morris, Councilwoman Gavin, and myself. Also in attendance was Nick Gornick from the Water Department, and Greg Ruddy from Public Works. We had just a few items, and bring my notes up. We only had 2 contracts, and one was the salt purchase through the state of Illinois at $78.36 per ton, guaranteeing 80% of the total amount that we contracted for, and allowed to purchase as much as 120% of the total, which I believe was 10,500 tons. Salt's important in the winter. We also had a contract we looked at that is basically materials purchase, might call it attic stock for our traffic control devices from a sole source for $43,760. We had 2 items under pay estimates and final payments. We reviewed them. And one was the striping program from this year, closing that out. And another one was a change order for $16,564 for the Reedwood Phase 2 Water Main Improvement Project. That's part of the water main improvement that we've gotten to the point where we're replacing over 4% of our water mains a year. Only 8-9 years ago, we were replacing none other than plugging the holes, no pun intended, when a leak happened. We're proactive now, not solely reactive. And really, that's all I had. Could you think of anything, Terry, or?
Nope.
No? Betty, did you have anything to add?
No, you pretty much covered it, sir. Thank you.
It was a very short meeting, so with that said, Mayor, that would be my report for the Public Service Committee.
Thank you, Krista. Jim, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Greg Ruddy's not here tonight. With the salt purchase, I know we had an issue with vehicles where we purchased them, we ordered them, but they haven't been delivered. With the supply chain issues, are we anticipating?
No, we actually, last year we had to scramble to get some salt, but I believe we remedied that this time around, Mayor. So we should be completely fine on salt. There was an issue. We had to scramble to get some
Right.
contracts in place, but not this year. We're ahead of that. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Next is consent agenda, approval of the minutes. It's recommended the minutes of the pre-council meeting held on November 14th, 2022, and the minutes of the council meeting held on November 15th, 2022, stand approved as recorded. Council Memo 576-22, Amendment Number 1 to the Professional Services Agreement for the Columbus Business Park and surrounding area water and sanitary sewer infrastructure needs investigation to Strand Associates in the amount of $67,600. Council Memo 577-22, Amendment Number 2 for the 2021 Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Program Professional Services Agreement to RJN Group in the amount of $50,000. Council Memo 578-22, Amendment Number 2 for the 2022 Sanitary Sewer Investigation and Rehabilitation Program Professional Services Agreement to RJN Group in the amount of $31,500. Council Memo 579-22, Change Order Number 1 for the West Side Wastewater Treatment Plant Influent Lift Station Improvements Phase 3 to Williams Brothers Construction in the amount of $65,306.75. Council Memo 580-22, Change Order Number 5 for the 2021 Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Program to Performance Pipelining in the amount of negative $37,570.11. It's recommended Council Memos 576-22 through 580-22 be approved. Is there a motion to approve all said consent agenda items?
I'll move.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 582-22 was previously tabled to the January 17th, 2023 council meeting. Moving on under public hearings to Council Memo 583-22. It's a public hearing regarding ordinance approving the vacation of 20-foot by 100-foot portion of a public alley south of Grove Street. This is a public hearing, so comments would be in order at this time.
Is there anyone who wants to speak in this item?
Seeing none, let the record show that the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 583-22, an ordinance approving a vacation of a 20-foot by 100-foot portion of a public alley south of Grove Street?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is a public hearing for the 2023 fiscal year budget. This is a public hearing, so comments would be in order at this
Are
time.
we gonna vote immediately after this?
There's separate votes under ordinances, so this is just the public hearing portion.
All right. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on the proposed budget?
Seeing none, let the record show that the public hearing for the 2023 fiscal year budget is now closed. Moving on, under ordinances, Council Memo 586-22, an ordinance abating the taxes heretofore levied for the year 2022 to pay debt service on $3,665,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2020A, and $6,535,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2020B, and $93,595,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2022 of the City of Joliet, Will and Kendall Counties, Illinois, of the City of Joliet, Will and Kendall County. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 587-22, an ordinance for the levy and assessment of special service area taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, and for the 1996 Joliet Special Service Area Number 14, Joliet City Center. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 588-22, an ordinance for the levy and assessment of special service area taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, and for the 2009 Joliet Special Service Area Number 7, Park Hill subdivision. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 589-22, an ordinance for the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, in and for Joliet Public Library, Will and Kendall Counties. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Mayor, question.
Yes.
Did we find out, if the state ever gave the grant that was gonna cover and retire the bond?
Yes, they've been awarded the grant, but they're still working through the final details to get fully funded on it.
Is it guaranteed?
The library's assured me that, yes, they feel they were guaranteed the full amount, and that they were one of the first districts to go through minority and women-owned business requirements, so they're sorting through the proper paperwork and make sure that that's documented properly.
Is there any ETA on when this would retire the bond?
Haven't received that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 589-22?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman.
Well, I've done a lot of homework on this, and I agree with some of it, and there's a lot that I do not agree with. And so at this time, because I found out why this is happening, I cannot support this levy for the library at this time.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
No?
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-2. Next is Council Memo 590-20, an ordinance for the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, in and for the City of Joliet, Will and Kendall County. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 591-22, an ordinance to include in the 2023 annual budget for the city of Joliet a discretionary subsidy to the Will County Metropolitan Exposition and Auditorium Authority, the Rialto, and to the Joliet Area Historical Museum. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Krista, Jim, I had a question last night about the amounts that were paid to Councilman Mudrin. Did we get an answer on that today?
I believe we had an answer what the initial,
The initial premium was, $246,000.
And do you know if that was paid in full or not?
That I don't have that information. I do know that they did change the coverage mid-year, so I know there was some refund, but I don't have that information.
Okay. And do you have the information how much his firm received in this?
The Rialto doesn't have that.
Pat, would you like to share with the council?
I don't know. I'd have to go back to bookkeeping and ask them.
Do you think, I suggested at a meeting you were at the Rialto, and that last night that your firm repaid the money to the theater.
It's impossible. I would be rebating and I would lose my license. And others in the office would lose their license.
Well, again, I think I have to be consistent. I made the statement when I first went over to the Rialto. We give money every year as a subsidy from the city of Joliet, and I think it's been put to good use by the theater. But the idea that a councilman, especially the one that's a liaison, would turn around and profit from that and take money, put it in his own pocket, I think is, well, I know it's wrong. It's ethically wrong, and as I pointed out last night, the Inspector General recommended criminal charges for it. So I do not, I certainly want to cut the theater off, but I can't support this until we find out what those amounts are and whether they could be repaid or not.
Krista, could I ask a question? Is it too late to split out the two votes, the Rialto and the museum? Because I don't feel like it's ethical for me to vote for the museum without being on the board.
There
So,
can be two separate votes.
does anybody have a problem with that?
Not unless you're profiting from it. No, I don't.
Well, I vote on the museum board, and I don't think I should be voting for something that they're gonna be, you know.
So we can take a separate vote for the Rialto and the museum.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So, is there a motion to approve an ordinance to include in the 2023 annual budget for the city of Joliet, it's a discretionary subsidy to the Will County Metropolitan Exposition and Auditorium Authority?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
To be clear, I suggested it yesterday that maybe we can consider, but I don't think there's an appetite from enough people, that any city subsidy would be solely used to fix, maintain, improve the much-needed improvements for the old girl known as the Rialto. Nobody seems interested, so it's good to hear that there's a little over $8 million in grants they receive, state and federal, to go towards the $13.5 million in needed repairs, because otherwise it continues to deteriorate, and that's always concerned me. But this $475 doesn't help the Rialto. It helps the private company called Venue Works guarantee a profit. It covers their budget holes that they can't cover themselves, and that's corporate welfare. No.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
This is for the 375, correct?
Jim?
Okay. I just have one question
That's all
for
true.
Wade. When the grants were applied for, for the operation, or the capital improvements, was the roof put in there in the very beginning, or did you guys just go right for the restrooms?
If you could step forward, please. Thank you. They can't hear you at home.
I can't answer that question. I wasn't on board when those were done there
Oh,
back
then
in.
maybe
Yeah,
Robert can
maybe
answer.
Bob can take that question.
Again, the answer is that we had access to the $500,000 before the 5 million. So since we had access to that, we did go down the road of starting a plan for that, for the 5 million. And then, once we got the 5 million, we started planning for it. We were told that if we didn't do the roof first, before the bathrooms, there could be a risk that the flooding could occur.
Well, right, that's why, so my question is, do you have the money to do the roof first?
Well, we need about 5.1 million, so we don't have the money yet, but it's available. We go
Because-
through the process.
Right, okay. It's, believe me, I've been, lots of emails from the library today, phone calls, library, and the Rialto, so this is a tough one for me.
Well, believe me,
And-
I wish they'd give us the money and then we could do it.
I know,
But that's not the
but
way it works.
I got a long email about venue works, it'd say, 7 years and you guys would be on your own and all this other stuff that went on when venue works was hired. But anyway, and we have to figure out, again, if it's gonna be a wedding facility or if it's going to be a theater.
It's gonna be both.
But it can't be both. No, it can't, because, well, I'm not gonna argue with you. Anyway, okay, thank you. So I wanted to know about the monies, because you can, everybody does the roof first anyway before you do everything else, because once the roof goes, the whole place goes. So I will vote aye for 375, but I hope next year it's nowhere near that. Get the roof fixed, please.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried. The subsidy for the Rialto was approved for 591-22, the Rialto portion. The vote was 7-1. Moving on to Council Memo 591-22 for the Joliet Area Historical Museum. Is there a motion to approve an ordinance to include in the 2023 annual budget for the city of Joliet a discretionary subsidy to the Joliet Area Historical Museum?
Is this 591 or 592?
It's still 591-22.
Okay.
It's the second portion since we separated them into two votes. So this is for the Joliet Area Historical Museum.
We call that
So moved.
591B. I'll second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Again, I remember the night precisely in 2013. This chamber was under renovation remodeling, and we did it at, I believe it was Plainfield South High School, because we had a traveling show at the time, going every month or twice a month to a different place during the renovation. And it was a tight vote for a 10-year commitment of $200,000. It was 5-4. The then mayor had to break that tie. What was said by the management of the theater is that if you guys just give us this 10-year commitment, at the end of the 10 years, we're not going to need your subsidies anymore. We can make it happen. We can make it work. We can make it self-sustaining. And in fact, they've actually increased their dependency on us. So they've not lived up to their word. No.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
No.
Councilwoman Reardon,
I'll recuse myself.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-2. The subsidy for the Joliet Area Historical Museum was approved to be included in the budget. Moving on to Council Memo 592-22, an ordinance approving the 2023 fiscal year annual budget for the city of Joliet, Will and Kendall counties. Recommended that ordinance be adopted.
So moved. Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Well, it's not a perfect budget. We just went through 2 line items. I do want to thank Mr. Caparelli and his staff and Mr. Singh for doing what was really important to me, paring it back a little bit, but also expanding to what might reach almost 14 million next year for streets and sidewalks. This year was nearly over 11 million. And this is the biggest capital improvements on our streets this year and next that we've done probably in 40 years. So I do appreciate you guys. You sharpened that pencil pretty sharp. Don't stick it in my eye because so I will vote aye on the budget, absolutely.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Yes, thanks again to Kevin and Mr. Goodati, everybody involved in that. The residents are gonna see a great benefit from our sidewalks, improvements, streets improvements, so I thank you for going back in there. I also thank you for our residents, our seniors in the snow shoveling program. I like the idea you dropped some nuggets in there for us, and so it kind of expands that program and help our residents, our seniors, be able to get that service. And also the marketing piece of that, we'll stay on how we get the word out to those residents who are not technical savvy, but make sure they know the resources that are available. So I vote aye for the budget. Thank you.
Motion carried. Council Memo 592-22 was approved. Next is Council Memo 593-22, an ordinance amending the 2022 budget for the city of Joliet for the purchase of the property located at 501 South Richard Street and approving and authorizing the execution of the real estate sale agreement and commercial lease agreement. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Just a real quick question. So this puts to bed any possibility of us being forced to fix a bridge we don't need, correct?
That's
That is
correct.
correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
And real quick, Chris, I know we had talked about this yesterday. I think the idea then is to relocate city buildings or city services to that area?
Well, I believe that for this particular area is once the I-80 expansion takes place is that property may be available for, there'll be an exit there for city or state vehicles like kind of a salt dome or road maintenance area to be used by the state. We can either sell it or lease it to the state. So it will not be open, an access, public access. It'll be a municipal access.
Good. Well, compliments, it hasn't passed yet, but compliments to you and staff. You guys thought out of the box and came up with a good solution there. So,
Thank you.
Been motion and seconded to approve Council Memo 593-22. Councilman Hug.
I'm so glad we don't have to build a bridge to nowhere. Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
I knew this was gonna come back to bite us in the butt, but I vote aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 594-22, an ordinance amending the 2022 budget for the city of Joliet for the purchase of the property located at 515 South Richard Street and approving and authorizing the execution of the real estate sale agreement and commercial lease agreement. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
And just to be clear before I cast my vote, Jim or Kevin can answer it. This in no way affects the budget as we've, for services because it just reduces the amount that would have went into reserves. Correct?
Correct.
I believe we still have 7 million earmarked for reserves.
Correct.
Okay. Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on under resolutions, Council Memo 596-22, resolutions associated with Clarius Park subdivision. This includes a resolution approving the dedication of a portion of Young's public right-of-way, a resolution approving the dedication of a Young's Road water main easement, a resolution approving the grant of water main and sewer easements on lots 2 and 3 in the Clarius Park subdivision, and a resolution approving the grant of a water main easement on lot 2 in the Clarius Park subdivision. It's recommended said resolutions be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 597-22, a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with the Joliet Area Historical Museum. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
I will recuse myself again.
Councilman Clement,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Just for clarification, it's the same agreement we've had since 2002, which means they're paying no rent. They're getting free rent at the city building still?
That would be correct.
Okay.
Well, it's, yes.
Okay. Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 598-22, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the County of Will for the placement of license plate reading cameras located on county highways. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 599-22 is a resolution authorizing certain employees for the city of Joliet to sign checks, vouchers, and warrants to the disbursement of city funds. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
Mayor?
Yes.
Jim, because somebody just briefly explain to anybody watching what it means, certain employees. This is a routine thing, I get it, but somebody watching may not understand.
Right, we're changing the ability, just like you would on your checking account, to take some people off and put other people on to be able to sign for those checks that the city disburses.
So that could be the director of finance, that could be yourself as city manager.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's not just a blanket certain employees, I want you to understand that.
It's not a blanket, sir.
No,
Okay,
you
thank you.
can't sign any checks, Larry.
I don't know how to write.
I don't send any checks.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Is there a motion to approve Council Memo 599-22?
So moved.
Motion seconded to approve. Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is the city manager's report.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to the staff for all the work they put in getting their budgets to us that reflect, so much of what we do here is actually comes down to dollars and cents. I'd also like to thank the council members for actively engaging in the budget discussions, giving feedback so that it reflects your wishes of the people here. Clearly, the sidewalks and streets are something that need to be done, and so you've made that very clear to us, and so we continue to support those efforts. So I would like to thank you for again providing input. We've been able to show some improvement in our financial position here. We hope to continue to do that. You've seen there's been a bigger collection of fees. So we continue to move down that path and look for innovative ways to increase revenues for the city via impact fees. And so again, thank you all for all your efforts here today. Thank you.
Next is new business, not for final action or recommendation.
Joe. Betty?
I have nothing, sir, thank you.
Caesar? Larry?
Just quickly want to personally thank Mr. Singh. Early on in getting in as Director of Finance, he was very responsive to my queries and questions about the budget in a very timely manner. Thank you, Kevin.
Terry?
No.
Pat?
Oh.
Jan?
I would have to echo Councilman Hug's comments. 2 days I was on the phone with you about different things. Thanks for all the info, I appreciate it.
Sherry? I got a couple things. Number one, we started this a couple years ago with COVID when the downtown Christmas parade was canceled. The Santa send-off, we're gonna do the third annual one a week from Saturday, December 17th. We'll start at Station 4 on Draper and work our way through the east side, across the river, all the way as far west as the city goes. So stay tuned to that. I know I did a radio commercial for WJOL, and we'll advertise on our pages or on the Facebook page. But it's been a great event. I think a lot of families have really enjoyed it. I'm glad we're doing it again. Jan, last year you rode up top with myself and Santa Claus.
Yeah.
It gets pretty cold out west.
They think I'm Mrs. Claus, so. I have new bells this year.
But great event. I'm looking forward to doing it again, and we'll definitely keep people appraised of that. And then
Oh, it starts at 10, correct?
I think 10 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m., just so they know.
The second item, on November 16th, I was invited to the Union Pacific Rail Yard. I know Councilman Clement, you were there. We got a tour of the railroad yard. This is inside Center Point, inside the Joliet Intermodal. As I think most people realize, there's two intermodals in Center Point, one in Joliet, one in Elwood. I didn't have a notepad, so I was taking mental notes from what we were being told. But I want to, again, break this down and try to give an understanding to the people of Joliet what exactly has happened inside that intermodal. I know over the years we've talked about it being the largest inland port on the North American continent, which it is. The news that we got from Union Pacific, and I know it's the same with the Burlington Northern Yard in Elwood, but they are literally doubling their operation. Last year, they moved 640,000 containers through their yard. That's brought in by train from the east, from California, from Long Beach, brought in, unloaded. Trucks come into the yard to pick the container up, right out of the yard to drop it off wherever it's going, to some local warehouse or logistics center somewhere in the Chicago region. Eventually, another truck comes, picks up the empty container, drives it back into the yard, and drives back off the yard. So there's been a lot of talk about truck traffic in the area. This is what's generating the traffic. What I want our residents to understand, and this isn't the City of Joliet initiative, this is the railroads are doing this themselves. They're going from 640,000 containers. This year, with the new cranes that they built, they anticipate moving 1.2 million containers. So the amount of truck traffic from that yard is going to double in the next year and continue moving forward. They were specific about, we asked about the turnaround times for the containers. They said for domestic containers, they move them off the yard within 24 hours of being unloaded off the train. With international containers, they've moved off the yard within 72 hours. So just to break it down, if they operate every day of the year at 1.2 million, that's 3,287 containers coming in via the railroad, being unloaded into that yard and then dispersed all over Joliet. So I don't want to get back into North Point or the other developments that the council's approved, but I do want to use this position to try to educate people what is going on in our region, what's happening and what's being developed. There's business parks that are opening all around Center Point, some in Joliet, others in Wilmington or New Lenox or Minooka. I do know that there's talk of another intermodal coming to the west of us, in a town not too far away. So for whatever reason, and these decisions, as Councilman Hug, I know you've talked about, were made 25, 30 years ago, but our region is becoming a hub for this type of activity. It's going to grow beyond Center Point, but certainly the two railroad yards within Center Point have made the determination that they're growing, and we have to work with them. And I think the Union Pacific people were very open about partnering with the city to find solutions. But I also want to highlight some of what we've come up with. The main thing being the Holboat Road Bridge. It was an initiative. I didn't think of the idea. It was presented to me when I was a councilman, but I championed it when I became mayor. I met with Larry Walsh and Nick Palmer, and together we decided we're going to get this done to start pulling the traffic off of local roads coming in and out of Center Point and give a direct route on and off the expressway directly in and out of Center Point. So I've always said the Holboat Road Bridge is not going to solve the problem, but it's a big step forward. It can't be the only step forward. There needs to be other solutions. The amount of traffic that's coming to our area, local roads cannot handle it. And again, I don't want to make this overly political, but I don't understand when I see new construction, road construction all over the county at Weber Road and I-55. I think for the third time I've been a councilman, since I've been on the council, they're having a major road project, and I see nothing done on Briggs Street, nothing done on South Chicago Street. I don't understand it. I thank the state of Illinois for recognizing the issues with I-80 and for designating over $1.4 billion to begin to address the problems on I-80. But again, I think we need to be active as a council and staff and our lobbyists, and moving forward, we need more help with what's coming to the area. And I think a lot of the steps we've taken on the council are proactive and productive in trying to solve this, but the problem's not going to go away. It's growing, and we need to stay on top of it. So again, I just want to use this forum. I don't think this has been reported in the media. I don't think there's any Facebook pages that are protesting this, or pep rallies, or any of the things we saw with North Point. But that is going to be a problem for us locally, and we have to, again, stay proactive and try to deal with this.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to add, while we're still on the subject that you brought up, just to make it clear to people, they're not increasing their lifts. The intermodals owned by the railroads are not increasing their lifts in response to warehouses. Warehouses respond to their volume. We could tear down every warehouse that's here and never build another one, and they're still gonna have the same amount of trucks and lifts.
Right.
They don't care whether they go a quarter mile, a half mile, a mile, or 100 miles away. They just want them off there in 24 to 72 hours. People sometimes have it backwards. The warehouses draw the trucks. No, the warehouses absorb the volume from the railroads, from the intermodal. And Joliet has no regulatory ability over the intermodals. That's federal government. That's the railroad, the Surface Transportation Board, things like that. They don't need our permission for anything, whereas the warehouses do. I just want to make that clear on the heels of what you said.
Right, thank you.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening?
Yeah, I got a question.
You step forward, please.
What you said about getting people involved, I don't know if it's still in.
Sir, for the record, can you give your name and address, please?
John Johnson, 524 Strong Avenue, Joliet.
Thank you.
Is if the Northeast Planning Commission can help you out at all with that, because they were very active over in the eastern part of the county in the Crete area when they were doing a lot of the different road works to absorb the truck traffic there. I don't know if anybody's working with them or what you guys are doing with that.
Yeah, I haven't, Jim, I doubt you have either. I know we're working with CMAP. There's, Will County has had freight studies. There's a group that Scott Slocum put together for the I-80. So there's a number of local groups, but no, I have not talked to them. We could reach out to them though, and certainly look at what they're doing.
Yeah, because it's a state agency and they really deal well with traffic. I mean, their Northeast is really good. And what they look 40, 50 years ahead of what they're doing. So.
Right, and I think the plan ultimately is going to be to tie what's happening here in with what's happening to the east, and eventually if a third airport is built, I think there's a master plan. We have to deal with it at the local level, but.
Well, yeah, and the last time I had a friend of mine with the planning commission, Northeast Planning, there's a road planning for 2031, I think, to go between 57 and 355.
Correct.
To start tying everything together, but I was just wondering if you guys had done anything with that yet.
We'll look into it, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? This is Mayor and Council.
Joe?
I just want to thank Jim and Kevin Singh and Jim Cadatti, working on the budget and being very responsive to the needs of, stuff that I need. Also, my condolences to the Cox family. They lost their mother a couple days ago, so condolences to them.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Betty?
Yes, I'd like to give a shout out to Chief Kerry and his team for ThriveWorks. This is going to be an amazing resource for us in this area as we serve people with those special needs. So kudos to you all. I know you put tons of hours of service into that. And so I just want to say that's all to you for that, and God bless you for your work. Mr. Singh, thank you so much, sir. You were a blessing to me and breaking and cracking open the budget and getting me to a place where I could really understand. And thank you all for sharpening your pencils and going back to the table and looking at some things. I also, on a sad note, I want to, at this time, just pray for my husband and his family at the loss of his brother today. Our hearts are heavy, but we ask for your prayers to lift us up. Joe Gavin made his transition, and he is the father of Daryl Gavin, one of our ex-staff that's here. So please lift us in your prayers. Thank you.
Caesar? Larry?
Yes, first I'll address the budget. This was the budget meeting. I'll reserve my Merry Christmases for the next meeting, 4 days before. Like I said, it's not the perfect budget. I didn't get everything I wanted. We never do, all of us. But it does get my stamp of approval in addition to being passed, and I voted aye, for being a very transparent give and take process. And that's all I ask for. You know, I think everybody likes to see the sausage process. You know, I think it's outdated to say you don't want to see the sausage made. Our fellow residents who pay the bills, foot the bills that we decide on, like to see what we're doing, like to see a little give and take. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kevin, and Jim Gadati, who's not here tonight, and the entire staff, because this was not a one-man, two-man, or three-man venture. So thank you. We got it done. We got it done in plenty of time. And I, too, would like to give my condolences to the Cox family on the loss of their mother. They unfortunately also lost their father, what was it, 2 months ago? 6 months? 6 months ago. So it was really a 1-2. So my deepest condolences to the entire Cox family, and my prayers for my family to their family. And like I said, I'll wait for Merry Christmas for 2 weeks. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving.
I would also like to thank the entire staff, everybody who was involved in the budget, the fire department, with everybody involved with Thrive Works. It's a very, very exciting and great program needed here in the area. I'd also like to congratulate our latest Supreme Court judge, Mary Kay O'Brien, who, it's my understanding, when she's not in Springfield, will have her office right here in downtown Joliet. It would be a nice perk for us. Thank you.
Jim?
Yes, I attended the swearing in, and I believe you were there too. Yes, and it was just quite an event, and congratulations to her. I'm sure she'll be an excellent judge, because she's an excellent person. And again, thanks to staff again, Mr. Singh. I won't call you for a while. This budget was tough, and it was hard for me to make these decisions, but these are the ones that I had to make after I dug a little deeper into things. So after that, everybody be well and stay safe, because COVID and flu are running rampant. So just be careful.
Sherry?
I can agree with everything that everyone said up here, and I also want to add my condolences to the Gavin family.
Okay, yeah, I also agree with the comments. And Betty, my condolences to you and your family. I have a number of items. November 16th, besides being at Union Pacific, the Hobolt Road Bridge Extension had a tour, and they also had a drone that I was hoping to play at a council meeting, Krista, if we could reach out to the Center of Economic Development. But it was an update on the bridge. It's open, they will be open next year. They made great progress. Again, I just talked about that a couple minutes ago, what that's going to mean for our region. November 18th, the Continuum of Care, which is a Will County organization. They had an event at St. Anthony's Church. Our Christy McNichol from our staff was there. It was for social services for people in the area. I think a winter coat giveaway, a number of different things there, but thank you, Continuum of Care. On November 18th, there was a ribbon cutting at Larson Steel at 500 Mills Road. Councilman Clement, you were there. I was very impressed with their operation. It truly was a mom and pop operation that's expanding, but they took what was an abandoned site at 500 Mills and has it back on the tax roll. So congratulations to them. November 22nd, the Zonta Women's Group had a march from the State's Attorney's Office to downtown Joliet, in downtown Joliet to in front of the courthouse. Excuse me, State's Attorney Glasgow was there. I want to thank the Zonta people again for their work. On the 25th, some of us were at the Light Up the Holidays Parade. Councilman Clement, I know you were there, Councilwoman Reardon, Councilman Mudrin. It was, since I've been on the council, it's probably the nicest weather. Jan, I know you had a wedding that night,
Yes,
but a beautiful night, great turnout. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone for participating. Seemed like it really was well received by our people to be back out and be back in the holiday spirit. On December 1st, right here at City Hall, the Mayor's Committee for Disability had their Christmas party. Thank you to Tony Ariano and Pam Heavens and all the staff who put that together. The same night, the Park District had their annual sponsor recognition. Councilman Mudrin, I know you were there. I got there late, but I ran into you. Thank you to the Park District and to those who support it. The same night, the Joliet Historical Museum had their Christmas dinner celebration for the members and the donors of the museum. So thank you to all of them. Last Saturday, Chief, on December 3rd, Shop with a Cop happened again at Walmart on Route 59. Thank you to everyone on the police department that put that together, that put their own resources into it to make that happen. I had a fourth grader from the East Side, Gabe, who need a new iPad. So that's what we were able to buy with it, with what was put together. So it really made his Christmas, and I know a lot of young people and the parents who were there who were tearful and thanking the Joliet Police for their efforts. So thank you. That same morning, the ballpark had their holiday open house. The Slammers had an event with a Christmas toy giveaway. Thank you to Slammers for being a good part of our community for what they did. Also, Saturday morning was the Santa Fun Run. That was, I don't know what annual 5K that happened downtown, but again, it was well attended. It's the City Center, or not the City Center Partnership, Chamber of Commerce, thank you, that put that on. And then Saturday afternoon, I want to thank Bob Hernandez, who's a local resident. Obviously, he does his Facebook videos, but he put me in touch, and Councilman Morris, you two were there. There's a new group that's started on the east side of Joliet with very little fanfare. It's called the Uplifted Urban Youth Development. And it's 3 or 4 young ladies that have invested in their community and put this together. They have a basketball league. There probably were 75 or 100 kids participating in the league. They had a tournament at the Salvation Army on 3rd Avenue. I was really impressed with the operation. And again, that these people were doing this kind of under the radar, not necessarily looking for acclaim or credit, but were doing what they thought was right for their community. It's great to see new faces getting involved and doing for their community. So, and thank you, of course, to Bob Hernandez for bringing that to our attention. And then yesterday, there were 2 judge swearing-in ceremonies. The first one happened at the Will County Courthouse here in Will County. Congratulations to Judge Tuminello, Judge Cologne, Sarah, and Judge Connor were all sworn in. And then in the afternoon, Councilman Mudry and Councilman Quillman, you were with me at the Jacob Henry Mansion. For Illinois Supreme Court Judge Mary Kay O'Brien. It was a great moment. I think it was said that there's never been that amount of appellate court and Supreme Court judges in Joliet at one time. But congratulations to her, and I'm happy to see she's relocating to downtown Joliet. So, and then finally, congratulations to Plainfield South, the cross-country state champions. I don't know how many state championships they have at Plainfield South, so that's a big honor.
And I know they have the cheerleading, but yeah, that's huge. And I think you had talked about, and we can do that for the first year, giving them a proclamation for being state champions.
Absolutely. So that's all I have. We'll see everyone in a couple of weeks.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
The motion seconded to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye. I wanted you to say that.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, I forgot.